Three students are discussing a difficult course and sharing ideas about how to understand it better. They talk about the reading list, the university library, and getting help from the librarian.
I found today's course really difficult because the professor moved between different theories so quickly that I could barely follow. My notes became confusing, and I even missed the information about next week's quiz. I know there is a reading list, but it has several books and articles, so I don't know where to begin or which parts are most important.
I understand, but I think the course becomes much easier if you read the recommended materials before class. The professor included those books for a reason, and they help explain the theories more clearly. You don't necessarily need to read everything in detail at once. Start with the chapters and articles that are connected to the topics being discussed in class.
The university library can make this much easier. The library website has the course readings organized by week, and you can search for books by title. Many materials also have previews, so you can check the contents and identify the chapters the professor recommends. If you have trouble finding something, the library staff can help you access online articles and databases.
Oh, I didn't know the library had all these resources. I've been wasting time looking for random summaries online, but many of them were either too general or didn't match what we studied in class. I think using the official reading list and library materials will be much more useful than searching everywhere on the internet.
Exactly. That's why I keep saying the reading list is important. If you read ahead, you won't enter the classroom completely unfamiliar with the topic. Even a basic understanding of the assigned material can make the professor's explanations easier to follow and help you take better notes during the lecture.
And don't hesitate to ask the librarian for help. I once couldn't find one of the recommended articles, but a librarian showed me how to use the archive database and helped me locate it within a few minutes. You can also bookmark the course page so you can quickly access the readings every week instead of searching for them again.
Okay, you've convinced me. I'll check the library website tonight and start with the most relevant chapters from the reading list. If I have trouble finding anything, I'll ask the librarian for help. Hopefully, preparing before class will make the course easier to understand and help me stay on top of the upcoming quiz.
Three students are discussing their impressions of university life compared with what they expected before starting. They talk about academic workload, social life, independence, freedom, and the challenges of adjusting to university.
Honestly, I expected university to be more like the movies, with less studying and more fun. But my science and technology classes are much harder than I imagined, especially because of weekly homework and lab reports. I also struggle to get enough sleep because there is always something to complete or an event to attend. University is definitely a bigger adjustment than I expected.
I understand that, but university has also surprised me in positive ways. The academic workload is challenging, especially when we have lectures and lots of reading, but I really enjoy the social side. I've joined a few clubs and met many different people. The community is much more welcoming than I expected, and I've learned to manage my own time, cooking, and money.
For me, the biggest surprise is that I don't have as much academic freedom as I expected. I thought I would choose most of my classes and study at my own pace, but there are still many required subjects and fixed schedules. I enjoy the independence of daily life, but academically, I sometimes feel like I'm still following a set path instead of exploring the subjects that really interest me.
That's exactly how I feel sometimes. We do have more freedom than in high school, but it isn't the completely independent experience I imagined. I thought university would involve long conversations with friends and lots of free time, but sometimes I'm actually spending late nights in the library finishing assignments. Still, even though it's different from my expectations, I wouldn't want to change the experience.
I think the difference is that university gives us freedom in other ways. We can decide how to organize our schedules, which study methods work for us, and how to manage our daily lives. The academic work can be difficult, but completing a challenging assignment successfully is really rewarding. The friendships I've made are also more meaningful because we support each other through the difficult parts.
I agree. I originally expected university to give me complete freedom to study whatever I wanted, but now I realize that independence also means learning to manage responsibilities. The experience isn't always exciting or easy, but it teaches us important skills. We have to balance studies, social activities, personal responsibilities, and our own goals.
Yes, I think university is mainly about adjusting your expectations and finding your own balance. It isn't a non-stop party or a perfect movie experience, but it gives us opportunities to grow, make genuine connections, and become more independent. I'm learning much more than I expected, even if some of those lessons come from challenges rather than classrooms.
Three students are discussing the challenges of adjusting to academic English at university. They talk about lectures, academic writing, critical thinking, seminars, and ways to improve their language skills.
I'm finding academic English quite difficult, especially during lectures. Professors often use complex terms, speak quickly, and have different accents, so it's hard to follow everything. I also struggle during discussions because I need to organize my thoughts in academic English while responding quickly. Sometimes I understand the idea but can't express it clearly enough.
I understand. For me, academic writing has been the biggest challenge. We have to use formal language, specific structures, and strong arguments, which is very different from normal writing. Reading journal articles and research papers has helped me understand how academic English works. University writing workshops have also taught me how to organize paragraphs and use useful linking phrases.
I agree that reading is important, but speaking also needs practice. Joining seminars has helped me become more comfortable expressing academic ideas aloud. At first, I made mistakes and struggled to respond quickly, but regular participation has improved my confidence. Speaking academically is different from writing because you have to organize your thoughts while talking.
That's what I find most intimidating. Sometimes I have a good idea, but while I'm trying to put it into proper academic English, another student answers first. I feel pressured to respond quickly and sound perfect. I think I need more practice so I can express my ideas naturally without translating everything in my head.
You don't need to be perfect. The main goal is to communicate your ideas clearly. I've started focusing on getting my main point across first and improving my language later. Another useful strategy is to briefly rephrase what someone else has said before adding your own opinion. This gives you extra time to organize your thoughts.
That's a really useful approach. I think improving academic English is a gradual process, so we shouldn't expect to become fluent overnight. We can keep reading, participate in seminars, and use university resources such as writing centers and language support programs. The more we practice, the more naturally academic English will come to us.
I agree. I think the most important thing is to keep practicing without being afraid of making mistakes. I'll try to read more academic articles, participate in discussions, and use the university's language resources. With regular practice, I should become more confident in both academic writing and speaking.
Three students are discussing how to understand assignment feedback at university. They talk about unclear comments, delayed feedback, communication with professors, and ways to make feedback more useful.
I often find assignment feedback unclear and too general. Comments like "expand on this point" don't tell me what I should actually add or how to improve. Sometimes I receive only a short comment or remark without any explanation, which makes it difficult to understand what went wrong and how I can do better next time.
I understand that, but professors often have many students and assignments to review, so giving detailed feedback to everyone can be difficult. I think students also need to take some responsibility. If a comment isn't clear, we should ask the professor for clarification or arrange a short meeting during office hours instead of simply ignoring the feedback.
I prefer verbal feedback because written comments can easily be misunderstood. Even a short 5-minute meeting can make a big difference because we can ask questions and understand exactly what the professor means. I also think the timing is important. Feedback that arrives several weeks later is much harder to use because we've already moved on to another assignment. Exactly. If I receive feedback a month after submitting an essay, I may already be working on a completely different topic. At that point, the advice doesn't feel very useful. Feedback should come early enough for students to apply it to their next assignment and actually improve their work.
That's true, although professors may not always be able to return assignments quickly. Still, students can be more proactive by asking questions and discussing their work with teachers. Office hours are there for this purpose. If we don't understand a comment, we shouldn't be afraid to ask for more explanation.
Another solution could be using clear grading rubrics. If students know exactly what they are being assessed on, they can compare their work with those criteria and identify their weaknesses. Self-assessment forms could also help students think about their own work before receiving the professor's comments.
I really like that idea. For important assignments, the university could also organize short feedback review sessions. Students could meet in small groups or individually with professors to discuss their results. This would make feedback clearer, help students apply the advice, and turn assessment into a more useful learning experience.
Three university students are discussing how to prepare effectively for their final exams. They share different study techniques, including study schedules, past papers, active recall, study groups, breaks, and the importance of sleep and maintaining a healthy balance.
I'm already feeling stressed about the final exams because there is so much material to cover in very little time. My biggest concern is the quantitative methods exam, so I need to prepare carefully. I'm trying to find a study method that will help me understand the topics rather than simply memorize everything at the last minute.
I've started making a detailed study schedule and dividing my time between different subjects. For quantitative methods, I find that practicing past papers with a timer is extremely useful. It helps me understand the types of questions that may appear and quickly shows me which topics I still need to improve. I also make sure to schedule regular breaks so I don't become exhausted.
Past papers are useful, but I prefer to understand the material first. For my history courses, I've been using active recall and spaced repetition. I test myself instead of simply reading my notes again, and then review difficult topics after increasing periods of time. This helps me remember information for longer and makes revision more effective.
I'm also thinking about starting a small study group for economics. Explaining difficult concepts to other students can help me understand them better, and they may notice things that I've missed. Studying with friends can also make revision less boring. However, we'd need a clear plan and should focus on specific topics instead of spending the whole session chatting.
That's important because study groups don't always work well. Sometimes people get distracted or spend more time talking than studying. I think they are most useful for reviewing difficult topics, solving problems together, and testing each other. For individual learning, it's probably better to study alone and then meet friends when you need help with something specific.
Whatever method we choose, we also need to look after ourselves. Getting enough sleep, eating properly, and taking breaks can make a big difference to concentration and memory. Staying awake all night may seem productive, but it usually leaves you exhausted and unable to remember what you studied. I now stop using my laptop before bed and spend some time relaxing.
I agree. The best approach seems to be finding a balance between effective study and proper rest. I'll create a realistic schedule, practice past papers for quantitative methods, and organize a focused study group for economics. If we avoid distractions, take regular breaks, and get enough sleep, I think we'll be much better prepared for our final exams.